Welcome back to Pan Am Football with Max Dean. This is going to be our second version of the Too Early 2021 NFL mock draft. So all of our Too Early versions are going to be 1 point, etc. And those are all going to be our regular season mock drafts. So we are not going to see any 2 point anything until the regular season has concluded. Now today we're going to be going a little bit faster through the 2021 mock draft. Our first version seemed to go pretty well, but it was a bit long. And we're putting this out very shortly before the Week 12 games, so this draft order is going to be irrelevant pretty soon. But if people want to wake up, check out some football before the games start, then this will be right here waiting for you. So let me know how you like it. I will go back to doing some more in-depth mock drafts unless it's just overwhelmingly preferred at this pace. Okay, so before we dive in, check out the Pan Am Football Show weekly podcast with Seth Tootin and Jeff Hudson, as well as myself. We do our weekly review every Tuesday and our weekly preview every Thursday night. So we'll do all our game picks, we cover all the games, so on and so forth. And of course, a like really does go a long way. It helps a lot. It kind of motivates me to stay up late and do this kind of stuff, as of course it's 2 a.m. Texas time. Now, let's jump right into it. And please do, if you have any comments about which player I have your team taking, which player you would prefer, and just basically whatever you think, if it was good, bad, neutral, or if you have questions. Okay, here we go. Obviously, first overall pick, still going to be the Jets, still going to be Trevor Lawrence. Not going to spend any time on that one. Second overall pick, very similar. We're going to be looking at Justin Fields for the Jacksonville Jaguars. They need a quarterback as bad as anybody in the league, so they're going to go ahead and get Justin Fields. Again, not too much to talk about at the moment. The consensus number 2. Now we have the Cincinnati Bengals. They just lost Joe Burrow for the entire season, which is a big hit. Now, hopefully he's back in full force next year. But especially with the situation in Cincinnati, they need to go offensive line. Now, I know that offensive line is a big issue for them. I feel like they could get a serious playmaker elsewhere, but Penei Sewell is tremendous. He's a tremendous prospect, and they can figure it out. If you can't figure out a way to use Penei Sewell along with your other guys, then, what are you doing anyway? I know they have Jonah Williams, and they need help at different positions. I think last week I had them possibly taking a cornerback, but now with the current situation, you have to go with Sewell if this is how the draft order falls. Now we have the Dallas Cowboys. I don't remember exactly where they drafted in the last mock draft, but they need an edge player desperately. I've been seeing some people draft or mock Micah Parsons to them. He's a very good player. It just doesn't make any sense. They took Leighton Vander Esch recently as a linebacker in the first round. You can't just be going linebacker in the first round over and over, especially if you have other needs. It's just not a premier position. Plus, they're not really able to get out of the Jalen Smith contract yet. At least, they can get out of it, but it doesn't really make sense to. So Gregory Rousseau is still the guy for them. Now, there are questions about whether he's going to fall in the draft process because he opted out for the year. And there have been some other guys who have kind of stepped up their play. Now, as of right now, he's still going to be the top-rated edge rusher. But, once we get later on, as rumors start to leak out about how teams are viewing these guys, then that opted out, then we'll readdress that. But for now, they're still going to get Gregory Rousseau to pair with DeMarcus Lawrence. The Los Angeles Chargers. So this is a team that really needs offensive tackle as well. I'm pretty sure Penei Sewell went to them in my last mock draft. Now, let's bring this over a little bit. They still really need a tackle. It's just kind of something that they can't go without. So I think it's one of the reasons that their run game is struggling a bit. The next best tackle is down here a ways, at least according to these guys, and we're talking about the 5th overall pick. If that happens, in real life they would trade back, just based on what I know about the prospects right now. So let's keep that in our mind. But their other big need is cornerback. They were torched by the Jets wide receivers just this past week, so we're going to go ahead and get them a cornerback. Do they want to go Patrick Surtain, super technically refined? Do they want to go Caleb Farley with that top end ceiling, elite physical traits? It depends really. Also, that's a coaching staff that I think is really on the hot seat. I would move on. I know that offensively they're doing some things, but I mean, unless you wanna let the head coach go. Anthony Lynn. I always struggle to remember his name for some reason. So unless you want to let him go and see what Pep Hamilton does for the rest of the season, which it doesn't really make sense unless you really want to get a look at Pep Hamilton, because he's been a good offensive coordinator for a while, and I think he's doing a nice job there, but I think their overall game management has not been good. So I would like to see them move on from Anthony Lynn. And I know some Chargers fans probably absolutely agree, and some probably strongly disagree. So let me know what you think about that. But in terms of who I think they'll take, I won't stall anymore. Without knowing who the coaching staff is going to be and who the general manager would be, it may still be Tom Telesco. I don't know. But, because he did hit with that quarterback. He did hit with Justin Herbert, so it might be hard for them to let him go. So let's mock them Caleb Farley as the most elite physically cornerback. New York Giants, we are going to... So I would definitely look at going for a quarterback with them, but I don't think they'll do it. Again, the NFC East is very up in the air, because, I mean, you could have this team literally picking 6th overall, or like you can see up here with the... with the Washington football team here, right in the front, pick 19, because with a 4-7 record, they're currently in first place in the NFC East. So, I have a hard time seeing whichever team wins let their head coach go. And if it was the Giants, which is possible, I just don't think that they'll let their coach go. And so, if that's the case, they probably will keep the same general manager, Dave Gettleman. He's not going to want to give up on Daniel Jones that quickly. It's a weird team to mock for at this time. Assuming they all stay, what do they need? They need an edge player for sure. They're running a 3-4. I know that most fronts are multiple, but they have some flexibility. Depends also on whether they want to bring back Leonard Williams. That's another one Gettleman might want to double down on, because he traded assets and then used the franchise tag. He may not want to let him go. All right, let's say they need cornerback help. Their first-round pick recently was released. It's a messy situation, DeAndre Baker. They really need a linebacker, but their defense has been playing better. And again, I just don't want to use a top 6 pick on a linebacker for a team with holes like the Giants. So let's go. I think I mocked them Jamar Chase You know what? Actually, I think I might want to stick with that. So Jamar Chase, I do think, is a good fit for them. They need playmakers. I'll talk about, at some point coming up, I'll talk about where I think value lies in the draft in terms of positional players and why. So we will talk about that, and I don't love necessarily taking wide receivers high in the first round. I know that they are a premier position of sorts, but it's not black and white. There's gray to that. But if they want to give Daniel Jones a fighting chance, they do need to up the ante with playmakers. So we're going to go Jamar Chase. The Atlanta Falcons, again, we've talked about this before. Julio Jones and Matt Ryan are most likely sticking around, which means they still have a good core of skill players. Their defense is an absolute disaster. So they could go quarterback here, especially because Zach Wilson is still there. It's funny how this draft order has fallen, but I think with Kwity Paye still there, they may say, like, let's get the edge player and give it another shot and get a quarterback that we can, give him a little time, not spend such a high pick on him since Matt Ryan is going to be here anyway. So we're going to go Kwity Paye, the edge defender from Michigan. Here, it's an easy choice. Actually, no, it's not. I keep forgetting they have Jalen Hurts. So they drafted Jalen Hurts in the second round last year. I'm not sure that they thought that this was going to happen. I kind of think that it was more injury security than anything. But now they have this quarterback who a lot of people really like that they took in the second round. And even if they decide to move on from Carson Wentz, his contract it makes it really hard to move on from him. Now, if you just don't play him, that's another thing. You can keep him on the roster and have him as a backup. But then again, so you're probably maybe not going quarterback here, which I am kind of the opinion that you go with a quarterback as often as possible until you have the guy. So honestly, for the Eagles at this point, with the way that Wentz is playing, I think that you got to play Jalen Hurts for the last 6 games of the year, at least the last 5 games of the year, because you got to know what you have in him. You got to know if you want to give him a little bit of time. Assuming they do that and they like what they see, we're going to hold off on quarterback here, but obviously we'll know more about that as time goes on throughout the season. So we're not going to go quarterback. We're not going to go wide receiver. We just drafted one last year. This is an offensive line needy team. So here at 8, we're going to look down the list a little bit. They don't really need a tackle. They need interior. I had them taking Creed Humphrey, but that was also when they were in the lead for the division. Oh, man. Because they have Lane Johnson and the tackle that they took in the first round in 2019. So do they really want to go tackle again? But they don't want to go wide receiver twice in a row, do they? They have issues defensively. Okay, so I know that this is against the grain this is way against the grain for the Eagles, but we're going to have them take a linebacker in the first round because it's probably their worst overall position. And I know that they never really do that, but maybe they just think it's time to make a change. Do I think that they'll actually do that? No, not really. But we're going to mock them taking him here right now just for some variety. Lions, this is still my favorite pick for the Lions. I love the idea of pairing Jalen Waddle with Kenny Golladay. Now they just fired Matt Patricia and Quinn, their Bob Quinn, their general manager. So things are going to be shaken up there. They may move on from Matt Stafford. Now, this is maybe a position where you're going to be looking at a quarterback. It's hard to say because you never know. Sometimes the guys come in the front office and they say, they sell themselves getting the job by saying, we're going to make this guy better. And sometimes they come in and they're like, we're only taking the job if we can draft our own guy. So who's to say what they do? They have new ownership, so you don't have much to go on there. It's still the Fords, but it's new head man in charge, or head woman in charge. But let's say they trade Matthew Stafford and decide to move on from him. So if that's the case, we're going to go with a young big arm guy in Trey Lance. So I love pairing Jalen Waddle with Kenny Golladay, but we're going to go with Trey Lance, quarterback here, and get younger, get cheaper, and just freshen up everything that they've got going on there and try and find more of a speed guy later. Carolina Panthers, I think they need tackle more than anything, so this is a good place to look at Samuel Cosme. I think I've drafted him. I've mocked him to them before. But again, Russell Okung he's getting older. He's had a lot of injuries. He's not a bad player, but I think if they end up picking top 10, they'll know that they can probably get a good tackle in the draft, meaning they're not going to want to invest financially in that position. So we're going to draft Cosme to them again. Miami Dolphins. I've drafted them linebackers and wide receivers before. Jalen Waddle has never been there for their pick, for their second pick, but now that they're picking later with their first pick, we're going to bring him in and pair him with Tua and get them a serious playmaker at the wide receiver position. Minnesota Vikings. They can't move on from Kirk Cousins this year unless in 2021 unless they trade him, which is possible. I think might be a little unlikely, but that still doesn't stop you from drafting a quarterback and having him sit for a year or half a year or however long they feel like it goes. I think if Zach Wilson is there, that's going to be a guy that they like with leadership qualities that they like. So we're going to go with Zach Wilson and get a guy to be the recipient of the torch as Kirk Cousins moves on at some point. The New England Patriots, they would have loved to have gotten a quarterback, but they're not going to get one. Here they are going to be looking at Patrick Surtain. They are going to need cornerback help. It's in a big, important position for them. If they are not going to get a quarterback, they are going to go cornerback. And I know that Belichick loves his Alabama players. I know he likes his technically refined players. So there we go. The San Francisco 49ers, they need a cornerback as well. This could be a little early for J.C. Horn, but I kind of think he's going to rise a bit as we get to the actual draft. 14 overall. They need a cornerback badly as well, and they've got guys to pay. I've talked about this last week. They're going to have to pay Fred Warner. They're going to have to pay Trent Williams. They don't have a cheap option at quarterback as of right now. So they just can't pay everybody. They've already spent on the defensive line. They may let Dee Ford go to free up some space, but regardless, the cap is dropping next year. To address cornerback, they're going to have to go inexpensive, and I think that's going to be the draft here. Denver Broncos. They're probably going to hold on to Drew Lock. Maybe. their season is a little bit messed up right now because they are going to go into tomorrow's game, as I understand it, today's game for all of you who might watch this right off the bat, and with no quarterbacks, and I don't even know how that's going to look. I'm very curious to see how they get by. But they need to tackle. Garrett Balls has played well, but the word is with him, I think I mentioned this before maybe, that he's been kind of lazy. He's not been keeping in good shape, and he came in good shape, but in a contract year. So that doesn't really make you want to re-sign him, because I would be very concerned that he's going to just go straight back to his old ways and get out of shape again until the next time he needs to get paid. So I'd be looking for a tackle here. Chicago Bears, they obviously need a quarterback tremendously badly, but they also need offensive line help as well. You could go Jalen Mayfield here. It depends on how much they blow things up there as well. There are some teams that are really in a state of flux because I just don't know if the coach is going to be back, if the general manager will be back, if they decide to start things over, even if they have the same guys. So they may trade away some big-time players. I mean, they may trade away Khalil Mack. I could definitely see that happening. As good as he is, it's hard. It's hard to win with an expensive defense and no offense. So they may just need to try and accumulate some picks. Are they going to keep Allen Robinson, or are they going to let him walk in free agency? Will they put the franchise tag on him just to keep him around for one more year? I really don't know. I really don't know what they're going to do. And I'll be able to speculate on that stuff a lot more easily once I know if the coaching staff is going to stay, if the general manager is going to stay. But as of right now, I just don't know. So let's say things remain status quo, then they really need offensive line help. I think that they could go Jalen Mayfield, the right tackle out of Michigan, and then try and find a quarterback in a trade, or perhaps in free agency, and just try and figure out what to do. Maybe get a guy in the later round to develop behind a stopgap player. I don't know, but I think Jalen Mayfield is a guy there that's going to really help their offense in terms of pass protection and the running game as well. Miami Dolphins coming with their second pick. Keep it moving quickly. We went with wide receiver for the first pick, so we're going to swing back to linebacker here. I think that a high upside linebacker is a big help to them. Now, I would have loved for them to have gotten Micah Parsons. Didn't happen that way. I'm not sure Owusu here is really going to be the same type of player, but for right now, we'll roll with this big board here, and we're going to take him here. So we've got Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah out of Notre Dame. The Baltimore Ravens struggling a bit here. I know that guard is not necessarily their go-to first round pick player. I've had them go tackle before. I had them take Liam Eichenberg in the last mock draft. They have cornerbacks locked down. They went linebacker in the first round last year. They could use an edge player. Yeah, I think Joseph Asai is their kind of player. So I think I had them take Liam Eichenberg last time. So they're going to be looking at Joseph Asai, the edge player out of Texas. He's going to fit well into their multiple front, where he can play some hand in the dirt edge, some outside linebacker edge. Ravens get Asai. Washington football team. I don't know what they're going to do if they actually win the division. They're going to have to roll with Alex Smith for a while longer. We're going to rock through the rest of this draft. They've got some wide receivers. They've got a defensive line. They need a cornerback. But they also need the offensive line. They need a tackle badly. Rashawn Slater out of Northwestern. Obviously, after the Trent Williams trade, they never really properly filled that hole in. I think they took a tackle late in the draft, but they need a premier talent to come in for that position. So I think Slater can be that guy as a week one starting tackle. He can develop some, but he won't get your quarterback killed right off the bat. I still love Kyle Pitts to the Cardinals here. A dynamic tight end to pair with that wide receiver core. They need some interior offensive line help, and it probably would make them a more well-rounded team. But I think this would make them very difficult to cover. Because Kyler Murray is such a dynamic athlete himself, I think that it just changes the way that you plan your roster in terms of where you're going to invest. Like, I don't think you need to go first round interior offensive line when you have Kyler Murray, who can be so dangerous as a runner and as a scrambler. Kyle Pitts just opens up the seam in a way that not a lot of guys can do. Excuse me. So when you have the various players on the outside, or if they bring back Larry Fitzgerald to run out of the slot again, it's going to be really tough. If Kyler Murray makes the right reads, if he develops another year, I think it's a great fit. So Kyle Pitts, the tight end out of Florida. I think he'll fit really well into that offense, honestly. Now, I have consistently mocked, even in my non-YouTube mocks, Jay Tufele, the interior defensive lineman, to the Raiders, just because he's the best interior defensive lineman on the board at this point. And there hasn't really been a top-end one to go well before their pick comes up. So it just seems to fit in there. I wonder if they're going to feel like that's something that they can kind of do in free agency. And I know that, they went wide receiver last year in the draft. They went cornerback. It's a position that they haven't addressed in the draft with a high pick. They've gone edge. They've gone safety. They've gone cornerback. They've gone wide receiver. They've gone running back. I just think from a team building standpoint, as you rotate through all of the positions, this is just one that they haven't touched, and I think it will just round out their team better than any other position. They could draft Wyatt Davis and move on from a guy like Incognito, who's getting older. He's an old player. But I don't think that rounds out the team as well. So we're going to go back to Jay Tufele here. All right, Buccaneers are struggling in a couple of areas. They have a good offensive line. They could go interior offensive line and really just try and protect Brady as much as possible. But I think what would really benefit them is the receiving running back. I actually mocked DeAndre Swift to them last year for a very similar reason, because whatever Ronald Jones can do, it's not really be dangerous in the passing game. Running backs get hurt. If you really want to compete, just add as many playmakers as possible. Let's say that they bring all their wide receivers back. This just is a a role that is currently unfilled on the team, and it's also the quickest pass play. So it's a quick check down, it's a quick pass. It can slow down your pass rush, and make them think twice before going all out, because Travis Etienne can damage your defense if you don't account for him. So I think this is where Travis Etienne goes if he doesn't go before. Indianapolis Colts, again, they do need a quarterback, but I don't think that this is the position that they're going to be able to get one in. They need a speed wide receiver, I think, to take over for T.Y. Hilton, who just really hasn't been doing anything. Devontae Smith can be that guy. You can pair him with Michael Pittman. Looking at what else they've got here. Cornerback, that would be a big one as well. Will Xavier Rhodes price himself out of their range? I don't know. They have so much money to spend. But then again, maybe they don't want to give him a lot of money. Maybe they're not confident with him long term. They took a flyer. I think he only made $3 million this year, at least as his standard. You know, he may have some incentives. I'm not really sure, but I think that the wide receivers are coming into their own, I think. So you can get a guy later. Let's go cornerback. We're going to take Eric Stokes out of Georgia. I think that, Xavier Rhodes is a very good player, but he's up and down. He's emotional. I'm just not sure that you want to commit multiple years to a player like that, and so they may not be able to get him back without doing that. So we're gonna go cornerback here in the first round. The Cleveland Browns. I took Bateman recently for them. I think maybe in the last draft. I'm not sure. Maybe I went edge. I can't remember. I think that they'll probably move on from Odell Beckham Jr., which is why I have Bateman as a guy. They could also go Devontae Smith as a speed player, because I'm not sure that they have that guy on the roster right now. Bateman would be more impactful in the running game, though, and it seems like that's kind of what they want to do. You know, run the ball and pass out of that. Devontae Smith is not really going to bring much in the blocking game. He's not big enough. He's too slender. That would be an interesting pick. That's a pick your poison. I like speed as first round players. I really do. I think that is the rare trait that makes them that high end valuable position. And they're analytics driven, so maybe they'll agree with me, maybe they won't. I really don't know. We'll go Devontae Smith for them. If Donovan Peoples-Jones improves, he's a big body guy too, so they can kind of get something else to pair with him. The Jets. I don't want to go offensive line in the first round 2 years in a row for them. I'm not high on Shaun Wade for them either. And we've got a bunch of offensive linemen. Rashad Bateman, Shaun Wade, tight end, no. I guess in this situation, it doesn't really make sense, you know. Jason Hutchinson is a bigger defensive end. Owe is more, you know, I think that this actually might be a good pick for them. I really want the Jets to get an edge player, so we're going to go with Owe, or Owe, however you pronounce it, because it's a premier position. You went wide receiver in the second round last year, and that looks like it's really panning out. Yes, you definitely want to add more wide receivers, but based on this, they would have the first pick in the second round and 2 third-round picks as well. and you have money in free agency, I think this is a really tough position to find. It's the second most important position in the game. So if you can get a guy that really fills the role, then you kind of have to do it. I know that a lot of people are really into the Jets going offense, and I'm not against the Jets going offense, but I would prefer an edge player in this slot in the first round, because you just don't know who's going to be there when you get to round 2. All right, Green Bay Packers. They need a cornerback. As they go through the rotation, they could go cornerback. I tend to think that tackle is a need for them on the right side. They just spent a ton of money. They just spent a ton of money on their left tackle, David Bakhtiari. They could go tight end. I feel like I maybe even had them take the tight end before. Can't remember now. I know a lot of people are going to want them to go with offensive weapon for Aaron Rodgers. I think I want to go tackle. They lost Brian Bulaga in free agency last year. They replaced him with I forget what his name is, like Tim Kelly or something like that, and he's just not the same kind of player. I'm gonna go with the tackle here. Although, let's go with Liam Eichenberg out of Notre Dame. Okay, we're getting there. We're almost there. We're going to finish up quickly. The Titans, they desperately need an edge player. So they're going to go with the other Michigan edge. Where is he? Or did we already have him? Did I must have already... There he is. Aiden Hutchinson is going to the Titans. The Bills, cornerback. Where is he? We're going to go Darian Kendrick out of Clemson for the Buffalo Bills. They need another corner to pair up with Tre'Davious White. They just paid him a lot of money. I like to pair a first-round player with an expensive vet in certain positions. Tackle is one of those positions. Cornerback is one of those positions. Edge is one of those positions. So we're going Kendrick here. The Jaguars, with their second pick, they went with the quarterback in the first pick. We're going tackle, hands down, no question. Dylan Radunz out of North Dakota State is going to come in. They need to add some pieces there to protect. The Kansas City Chiefs, I think I actually had them taking Pat Freiermuth before. But they're going to be losing guys, and unlike a lot of teams, I think they're just going to continue to add offensive weapons. They're going to lose Sammy Watkins and probably Demarcus Robinson in free agency this year. So they've got a couple of speed guys. It might be nice for them to add a bigger body guy. I'd be kind of surprised, actually, really, now that I think about it, if Rashad Bateman lasts that long. But if he does, great fit there. And Saints, man, they just need somebody to be an impact player, that would fill in. Actually, I really can't remember who I drafted Pat Freiermuth to, because I've had reasons to do it for everybody. Maybe I had him go to the Saints because they won't be able to keep Jared Cook, and they need a less expensive tight end. And they may go run heavy if they do the whole, if they really do the whole thing with Taysom Hill. So it would make sense to have a good all-around tight end. Pat Freiermuth going to the Saints for maybe the second time in a row. And finally, the Pittsburgh Steelers. I had him going Travis Etienne last time. That I do remember. We are going to be looking. They're giving up an edge player, most likely, a tackle, most likely, wide receiver, most likely. They go wide receiver in the second or third round just about every year. They got a lot of pieces there, so they're definitely not going to be looking at it in the first round. Do they want to replace Alejandro Villanueva? Yeah, they may. They may want to do that because that's a big position, and they're not going to be able to afford. Yeah, they're not going to be able to afford to sign a tackle in free agency. They're too tight on the cap. So if they're letting Alejandro Villanueva go, that means that they're going to need a tackle. So we're going to go Alex Leatherwood to finalize our mock draft. The 2021 NFL Mock Draft 1.2, for the Pan Am Football YouTube channel with Max Dean. So check out your team's pick. Tell me what you agree with. Tell me what you don't agree with. And I will be doing this again, hopefully pretty soon. And don't forget to check out the Pan Am Football Show weekly podcast. All right, guys. Thanks very much.